were public expressions of hope for a new era, but private questions about Peking's intentions toward Taiwan followed.
It's a few minutes before airtime here at the CBS Washington News Bureau, and as you can see, the crew is preparing for what millions of Americans consider a nightly ritual, the CBS Evening News with Walter Cronkite. As has often been said, Mr. Cronkite is no ordinary newsman. He's earned the unqualified respect of his peers, and he's earned the respect and the trust of an even more critical audience, the American people. So tonight on PM Magazine, we're going to find out the way it is with Walter Cronkite.
You're going to fold the better piece.
Is this not true? Is this not what you just decided? We're going out the word expected on the film, but telling the rest of it. What you have?
From Washington, this is the CBS Evening News with Walter Cronkite.
Good evening. Chinese Vice Premier Deng Xiaoping met his most critical audience today, Congress.
Walter Cronkite has been giving the news to the American public for as long as most people can remember. But it all started in 1963.
Good evening from our CBS newsroom in New York on this, the first broadcast of network television's first daily half-hour news program. In Alabama today, Governor Wallace...
CBS had finally expanded its news program to a more comprehensive 30 minutes, ushering in an era of television broadcasting that was to change the world almost as much as the events that it reported. And if CBS was there, so was Walter Cronkite. He became their broadcast voice and something more. When it counted, he didn't just tell the news, he felt it.
Here is a bulletin from CBS News. President Kennedy shot today just as his motorcade left downtown Dallas. The flash, apparently official, President Kennedy died at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time, 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, some 38 minutes ago. Vice President Lyndon Johnson...
Cronkite guided the American people through the tumultuous 60s, often leaving his anchor desk in New York to spend 18-hour days in the field reporting the upheaval of politics, violence, and war. He loved the field so much, his colleagues even nicknamed him Old Iron Pants.
I love the extemporaneous ad-lib event, the one in which you don't know the outcome when you pull up your chair at the desk. And you report it as it comes and as it goes. And I never want to relinquish the microphone in a case like that. I want to stay there right to see the end of it. So sometimes it's been a very long night, an early morning.
Millions of Americans will remember what is probably the best example of Walter Cronkite's love affair with the microphone.
Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed.
Boy.
Okay, we're going to be busy for a minute. After I'm on, I'll get the buster back.
Wally, say something. I'm speechless.
After all the time waiting for a man to land on the moon, then he landed, I couldn't say anything. I guess it showed a certain emotional involvement that a good newsman's not supposed to have, right?
What do you think the role of a news broadcaster should be?
If you mean should it be serious or should it be what we see on too many local stations of the news reader type who is there only because of an attractive appearance and personality, who's not really a skilled news person and is more of a news, quote, personality, star, that I don't care for. I think it's unfortunate that a lot of station managers have somewhat abdicated their responsibility by taking in whole quantities without any local input the advice of consultant services from out of town who say you've got to have action in the first 30 seconds. Any old fire or barn burning or trailer truck accident will do. There's much too much emphasis on crime, petty crime, that really is of unimportant even to the social structure of the community that gets on the air. There's not enough attention to City Hall, county courts, those places where the news may appear to be dull and where it takes real imagination, real innovation in order to keep it from being dull. The local stations skip that in too many cases.
George Meany once said that by the lift of one of your eyebrows, you could influence more labor members than the labor movement itself. You have tremendous influence on the American people. You've known as having an incredible amount of credibility, influence,
Trying that
honesty.
eyebrow lifting and see how it works.
How do you feel about this influence, power that you have?
I don't consider it power at all. This has been quoted frequently that I am one of the most powerful people in the country, most influential people in the country. There's no truth to that. Power is only measurable by the degree in which you either use it or are capable of using it. I have neither the desire to use it, nor do I have the capability of using any of this possibly latent power in my position. There's just too many checks and balances. I could never inject personal bias and prejudice into that broadcast more than once without everybody in the news organization of CBS and raising up and saying, "What's he doing? What's he after? What's he trying to maneuver?" So I'm impotent. I couldn't use it if I wanted to.
Is it true that you call yourself a Walter Mitty?
I go into our building in New York every day. It's an interior building, no windows at all. Go through this revolving door, and every time I go through, I say, "All right, Lieutenant, take her down." Go down my submarine for the day. And I lift anchor with my boat, and I've always got a load of tea racing to Southampton, or out chasing the pirates or some darn thing in my mind. A little nutty, juvenile. That's me.
Every day, hundreds of people descend on this little town of 2,000 just to see Khomeini walk.
Who would ever have thought that this man we invite into our homes every night to tell us the world news is actually a Walter Mitty? I must say I found him to be a very charming and warm human being with a tremendous sense of humor. And as Walter Cronkite would say,
and that's the way it is. Tuesday, January 30th, 1979. This is Walter Cronkite, CBS News, reporting from Washington. Good night.